where like there was an endangered turtle that needed an immediate habitat change, and that nobody could get this endangered turtle to where it needed to go. So Bruce Dickinson was like, I got a day off. I will go take this turtle to wherever it needs to go in South Africa, or wherever the hell the fuck he took it. And he
Richard,
literally.
how much do you appreciate the accent?
Is it bad? How bad is it?
I thought that was absolutely 100% exactly like Bruce Dickinson.
Yeah, right. See, I don't know where the facetiousness and the polite
in any way. You know.
I want Richard to start doing Benny impressions.
Oh my God!
There's not enough coffee in the world that can make me imitate Benny.
Hello and welcome to another episode of 2020'd. My name is Cory Pezzo here as always with Benny Goodman and Siobhán Cronin. How you guys
Benny's
doing?
otherwise occupied with his device.
Hello.
For anyone not watching the video.
Yeah, he's calming down now because he's taking the edge off the coffee that he consumed in
Weed
this episode.
and speed it, bro. That's how you do it. Weed and speed.
We're super pumped for this episode. We have our good friend Richard Shaw back with us of Cradle of Filth fame. He also contributed to Lost Symphony on some of the greatest tracks we have here.
Our British ambassador, our original British ambassador, and he was a little bit. I don't want to say he was upset, but I feel like he was taken aback by the fact that he felt maybe usurped by Steve Wood. But we've now opened a British embassy on behalf of 2020. That Steve Wood is obviously our leader, but that there's a whole embassy.
so articulate as always.
Yeah, whatever that means. But yeah, obviously, anytime we talk to Richard, we just have a blast. It's great having him back more and more because we can kind of dive a little deeper than just the superficial, like, hey, how you doing, you know?
Yeah,
so we got to find out why he loves Dave Matthews Band.
Yeah, we get to talk about more ideas. You know, go back and check out the older episodes with Richard to get to know him a bit. But yeah, we really got to talk more about some ideas and opinions and dive deeper. Just get some more.
Being a father.
Yeah, being a father.
Yeah, so it's a good time. We won't spoil anything. Go check it out.
Adulting hard.
Make sure you subscribe, 2020-d.com. All those fun things you can do.
Lost70.com. We got a new record coming out with Richard Shaw, may I add, for our friend Ollie Herbert, July 9th. And if it's past July 9th, that means you can buy it now.
Yes.
And if it's not July 9th yet, you can still pre-order it now. Lost70.com.
So, before Ben gets carried away, part one with Richard Shaw.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Benny Goodman, as you probably surmised by now. Actually, you wouldn't surmise because it maybe you surmised. I don't know. I'm surmising with my eyes. But I'm here with my cohorts, as always, Siobhán Cronin and Cory Pezzo. How are you guys?
Drinking coffee for once because we have a guest today that's on a different time zone.
I got my pint glass of coffee. And let me just tell you, my Ninja, which is a coffee maker here in the United States, Richard, foams, the foamy foam so deliciously, and the way that it goes through the coffee. Like, I haven't been a coffee drinker for that long, but I've realized that good coffee with the proper good foam is the key to life.
As an experienced coffee drinker, I cannot recommend enough the wonderful Lost Symphony mugs available at lostsymphony.com. They're giant mugs, so you can fit a lot of coffee and a lot of caffeine.
That's chapter one, actually, the album that blew our minds, that introduced us to our new guest, or by old guest. Well, not that old. He's not that old, but he's been here many times. I don't even know how to say it.
A returning guest, a recurring guest.
His name is Richard Shaw, and he's our British ambassador. If you haven't heard him speak, go to the last 4 episodes with him because they're pleasant.
Well, thank you very much. I thought you had a new UK ambassador in Steve Wood. I thought I was demoted.
No, we've actually created an embassy. And in fact, you should be happy because you've been knighted into Steve Wood's life. And Steve Wood is he's a spirit animal that we all would like to have a leash on. He'll drag you, but you know,
I kind of want to be him a little bit. Like I was watching the episode with him, and I was just like, he has the life I think we all want.
Can I tell you,
he's done it all.
Cory and Siobhán, you can speak to this, and we're going to make fun of Steve on this show because Steve, where he's rooted in the old world, I'm going to say it. He's so prim and proper and polite but like we watched Goodfellas. So I went to Las Vegas and hung out with Paul Geary, his partner, at Shelter Music. And Paul is an industry legend, total awesome dude. And we were just getting off the plane, Sindel and I, and by Sindel, Cindy Pinto, my fiance. That's the word I was looking for. We got off the plane, and we were just pulling into Paul's driveway, and Steve Wood called, and he's like, what are you doing, Paul? And Paul's, of course, like, oh, well, I just picked up Benny and Cindy from the airport. He goes, well, now that I got you for a moment, we changed the venue to the Chateau d'Yquem in Paris, and it's a really acceptable venue. And he just goes on for this huge amount of time, and it's so polite, and it's such pertinent firsthand information. But it's just like, was it necessary at that moment? And then we watched Goodfellas, and there's this guy in that movie that never uses the phone, that talks to another guy. And if you want to talk to him, you have to talk to his guy, who then calls that guy, who then talks to him. And I'm like, that's why Steve Wood has 7,800 emails. I know you love Mark Tremonti. I've talked to Mark Tremonti on the phone, and we still had it for 2 weeks afterwards, booked him on the show, not because Mark's unagreeable, but because Steve Wood is the most polite, like, let's send a message to Kiss the Ring. Okay, well, now we need to go make that guy. Well, now we need to go meet in the parking lot. Well, let's have a Zoom call about it. Did he like it? Did they have a sit down? They had a sit down. Well, it turns out that they changed this, and that sit down was nullified. Yeah. Like, what?
Every conversation's an adventure is kind of how it boils down to.
I love you, Steve Wood. You're literally my favorite person in the world. And if you think I'm making fun of you, I'm not. I just love that you can live in this world, and that is your world, and everyone else has to adhere to it. God bless you, Steve Wood.
But Richard, you're still our original.
Absolutely.
B-O-G,
so for anyone
thank you.
that wants to hear about Steve Wood, they can definitely go listen to that episode. We had 2 episodes with him. But yeah, Richard, welcome back. It's so nice to have you again. And tell us what has happened since our last episode with you. That's a big question, right?
That is a big question, because last time I was on, obviously we were in the throngs of the pandemic just really rearing its ugly head, and now everyone's like a year later kind of, I don't want to say used to life with it, but I've kind of gotten used to life with it, and I've adapted, and in that time I've moved 3.5 hours away from where I used to live.
Is that still the middle of nowhere?
Still in the middle of nowhere.
And how far away is it from Stonehenge?
That's a very good question. I actually don't know how far away from Stonehenge I actually am now. Only about an hour or so from Stonehenge.
Wait a minute. You live within an hour of Stonehenge, and you actually don't know the answer to that? Like, I thought you were going to be like, it's 2,000 miles, Betty. It's past the peninsula near the person that has no teeth.
It's something like that, because I don't really think about it. I just remember how close I used to live to Donington. I used to live 20 minutes away from Donington, and now I live like 3.5 hours away from Donington.
If you're 20 minutes away from Donington when Iron Maiden goes and plays, can you still hear people screaming for Bruce?
Pretty much. Okay. When he says "scream for me, Donington," I'm there in my back garden, like going, "Yeah!" And that's pretty much how it works. If I'm not actually at Donington watching Iron Maiden,
I feel like that would be sacrilege. That would be like not going to midnight mass on Christmas. Just don't do that. Like, you have to love what you do. And like, for me, it's the Church of Bruce Dickinson. And then once he saved that endangered turtle on his day off on his 757 or 747 Boeing, whatever that he flies. Did you hear about that? Where there was an endangered turtle that needed an immediate habitat change, and that nobody could get this endangered turtle to where it needed to go. So Bruce Dickinson was like, I got a day off. I will go take this turtle to wherever it needs to go in South Africa, or wherever the hell the fuck he took it. And he
Richard,
literally.
How much do you appreciate the accent?
Is it bad? How bad is it?
I thought that was absolutely 100% exactly like Bruce Dickinson.
Yeah, right.
See, I don't know where the facetiousness and the polite
in any way.
I want Richard to start doing Benny impressions.
Oh my God!
There's not enough coffee in the world that can make me imitate
British
Benny.
people do great Americans. That's the difference. American people think they're doing like a British person, but they're just imitating, Johnny Depp doing Captain Jack Sparrow. You know what I mean? Which is just Keith Richards.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's very different than those people. Those people. I'm already offending everybody. Speak. You know?
It's always more jarring to me when a British person does an American accent than when an American person does a British accent. And I don't know why. I just expect that all British people, it's just like they will not leave the boundaries of the British accent. I don't know why.
It's pretty crazy because there's a lot of UK-based actors and actresses where I didn't know they were from the UK for the longest time.
Yeah.
And they have a massive career in the States, and they're like, oh yeah, they're actually from like where I used to live. And I'm like,
Yeah.
What?
Or you find out like
Okay.
how long was it in your life before you found out Russell Crowe was from Australia?
Pretty quickly, within the first couple of minutes of the first film I saw.
See, yeah, you know better because I can't tell. My ear is fucking horrifying.
Well, we all have our talents, Benny.
Just kind of getting back to Siobhan's original question there. So what you've been up to, obviously it's like, it feels like the last year has been like 10 years in terms of like the evolution of everything that's going on. But also you added a new member to the clan. So can we give you official congratulations for that on the show?
Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, it's crazy because last time I was talking to you, like we were expecting him and we were maybe a few months off from his birth. And now in a couple of weeks, he's going to be 9 months old.
Wow.
So
that's crazy.
just crazy seeing every day he becomes more and more of a little dude. You know what I mean? It's really
I thought you were going to say, in just a couple weeks, he's going to be turning 10.
That's how long it's felt.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, I've been watching all the pictures and it's amazing. My fiance watching pictures, moving pictures like Rush. Don't you know? I've been seeing pictures, and how cute your lovely son is. Like, oh my God! And then you could see a little you, and a little the missus, and then you're like putting all cute like Slipknot things and on. And I'm like, he's the best dad ever. And like, meanwhile, I have a 16-year-old, but when I met her, she was like 14 or something, and she's gone from like a pupa to like a full-blown butterfly. And I'm just like, when I met you, you were like licking light outlets and things, and now you're like forming philosophical, introspective thought, and it's really weird. And I just see the pictures on your Facebook, and I'm like, do you feel like you're watering the plant and it's just growing to be all that you hoped it would be under the wonderful light?
Well, I'm not going to take all the credit. I'm going to take the majority of the credit. No, I joke. No, obviously my girlfriend is absolutely brilliant. She's like the best mom in the world. And I just love being Rory's dad. It's like the best job ever.
Aww.
It's easy when you've got a little dude like him.
What a British name,
chilled.
Rory. We got Rory going to the
Rory.
Market.
It's actually an Irish name, Rory, because Charisse has a family from Ireland, and we always wanted to keep like an Irish name. Whether we had a boy or a girl, we wanted to keep it with an Irish first name.
We've already established that Ben thinks anything that's on the other side of the ocean is British.
Wait, hold on. Let's take Ben out and just put most Americans. Because we're Americans. We're not Americans.
Valid. Very valid.
Go to South Carolina, dude, and smell the air.
Anyways. Also, one cool thing we've seen since you've been on is Cradle of Filth has done a live stream, which I think there was some delays getting that on, because I think right after we aired our second pair of episodes with you, that was supposed to happen. I got pushed back a little further. But can you tell us about that? That seemed like the first little burst of normality in terms of the Cradle of Filth family.
Yeah, that was pretty crazy time, because I think it was originally booked in October of 2020. Then it got moved to, I think it was going to be December, and that couldn't happen. Then it was February, and then it finally happened in
So wait,
May.
COVID fucked up virtual tours?
Yeah, like
what the fuck
Yeah.
did this thing not fuck up? And like, oh, the computer doesn't want to be around the other computer that was exposed to COVID.
Well, it's weird because obviously in Cradle, for those who don't know, we have 2 members of a band from the Czech Republic. So instantly it was like, right, okay, we think we can schedule it in. Cool, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. No, the restrictions in the UK.
Is it like the K1 visa on 90 Day Fiancé? Do you have to like file something and then you're like, I really love her. She's in my band.
Well, it's probably an issue of the borders being closed to people outside the UK, right? Like coming in to do it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So the rest of the band are from the UK. But even within the UK, we were like not meant to leave our house other than to do like the groceries, for example. So that's kind of what was happening in October. So that was like, even our bass player from Scotland couldn't travel down. I only live a couple of hours away from Danny. I couldn't even technically go to him. So it's just, it was so tight. And then by the time May rolled around, we could finally get the checkmates into the country. We call them the checkmates.
I love that. That's awesome.
So we could finally get them into the country. So it was like, right, we have a week. Let's do the live stream.
If you throw them out of a bar, does that make them a bounce check? I'll be here all week. Try the meatloaf.
This is what happens when you drink coffee.
This is coffee. This is Benny in the morning.
That'll be the
Different
worst morning drive radio show ever. It's Benny in the morning. Oh God, no! Stop.
Please stop. Please stop. Except for the people that want to go to the gym and wake up and they're like, oh, I just turned that guy on just because he's so horrifying that I can't get through my leg day. I'm so mad.
If anything, let's not turn you on. I dread to think what would happen then. You know.
Cindy, my fiance, is not even here, but she's like, please don't do that.
But anyway,
Yeah.
but so that's what happened with live streaming. While we had like a week together, it was like, right, let's do the live stream. Let's film a couple of music videos. Let's finally do the photo shoot for the album, because the album artwork's
Did
been
you take the
finished
pictures
for a long
this time? Did you take the pictures, or now that there's new members, did they take the pictures of all of you guys?
We had a very nice photographer person who came in and just obviously did the thing, and that was it. And obviously we got a new member, so it's not like we can even use old photos.
Well, let me ask you this: you got a new member, but she's a woman, and she's very pretty. Do you think anyone will ever confuse whether she's in the band or not? And if so, or if not, is that
like a
bother
veiled
you?
insult? I'm a little confused.
Well, no, because last time, Richard, no one realized he was in the band despite being one of the greatest guitar players in the fucking world, because, well, Richard just could be anyone. But now they have a beautiful woman playing in the band, and I'm saying that no one will ever confuse whether she's in the band Cradle of Filth or not. Not only because 98% of their crowd's probably male, but secondly, like, she looks like she should be in the band. So my question, and Richard joked around on one of our shows that he took a lot of the pictures of people, and they're like, why weren't you in the pictures? Because he was taking the pictures because no one realized he was in the band. And my question
So refer
is,
to
you
the
flip
earlier
the punchline
episodes,
there.
with Richard.
So
too.
when,
That's
yes,
a throwback
throw
to
in
that.
clip.
Oh my god!
Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
throwback.
that's why I was
So-
confused.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my question is, do you think that anyone will ever confuse her at the meet and greet as being someone that should take the picture versus be in the picture?
Nah, she's got a very identifiable look with the hair and everything like that. And to be fair, it's always been the same with female members of Cradle of Filth. It's like they instantly get elevated to just as recognizable as Danny. It's kind of how it happens.
Interesting.
It's always been the same for as long as Cradle's had a female member, which is pretty much forever. There's always
Do they
been
have
a female
a
member
diva
of the band.
off? Like, does Danny ever get upset that like they want to put, the girls on the cover instead of him, or he's behind the girls?
I'll be honest with you, I don't think that's ever happened. It's like Danny is the face of Cradle of Filth. It's his thing, and I think everybody in the band, especially who we have now, is very, very appreciative of the fact that that's how it works. It's like we come into this band knowing it's Danny's band. Yes, we write the songs with him, we do the shows with him, but he is the recognizable member of Cradle of Filth. And if anybody kind of thinks differently, it's kind of silly. He's the guy who's been doing it from day one. He's been on the front cover of all the magazines and been on all the TV shows and all that kind of stuff. It's kind of crazy to think that they would think any different, really. So that's how it works in our band anyway. We're all happy with that because we're all very antisocial.
Well, you're also not American, so like therefore you probably get along and have like tea at high noon, and you know you're like, oh, we played solitarily on our own buses today, and it was wonderful.
Pretty much, yeah.
I just wanted to say solitaire.
In that exact accent again. Was that Bruce Dickinson again?
No, that's just, you know what? I feel like that's Moira from that show Schitt's Creek, where she just kind of makes up her own accent because she just has like alien accent syndrome or whatever, where it's just kind of like, it's not anything. It's just,
that sounds like a great
crazy
band. Alien Accent Syndrome. That's a great band.
You're welcome. You can use it.
Yeah.
No, but that's, to go back to what you're saying, though, that's an interesting conversation because now there are a lot of bands where it's kind of like the hired gun mentality. You know, like even, for example, Starset, right? Like I perform the tours, but I'm not really involved on any of the writing stuff. And so I'm always interested to hear people's perspectives on how they feel about their level of involvement in the band. So it's great that you get to write and everything, but there is a difference between serving as the front man and then being a band person. Like I love being a band person. You know, I also like being creative, but I love being in a supporting role in a lot of ways. It's a totally different thing to be like the face.
Exactly. I feel like musicians can wear like those different hats, where I like it in Cradle of Filth because yes, I do get to be a songwriter, I do get to be a performer, but I don't need to deal with the day-to-day running of the business kind of stuff. I don't have to.
Well, that's like the best of both worlds.
Stuff, yeah, exactly.
Because you get to uphold, because you get to be like the push-up bra, but also a little bit of the boob. You know, you're like the under boob. You know what I mean? Whereas Siobhán,
strangely enough, that's exactly what I was going to say.
But we'll never know exactly what you're going to say because Ben's going to talk over the end of every one of your statements.
But Siobhán, and on the other hand, is kind of just like, you know, the underwire. You know what I mean? Like she's like on the pictures and all that, and she plays it live, but she's not on the record. She doesn't add the creative. She's 100% supportive. You know what I mean? Whereas if it's your own band, you know what I mean? Like Danny, I can't even imagine the amount of craziness that dude has to go through just to keep that going, which is amazing that he has that notoriety, but he's earned it by, I'm sure, working his ass off every day of his life since the dawn of time.
That guy does not take a day off from Cradle of Filth. It's his life, it's his baby, and it has been since like whenever I formed, like 1991. I think it is 30 years of Cradle of Filth this year, I think. Wow. Like 94 was when the first album came out, but I think they formed in 91.
So you know your band's old if Freddie Mercury was alive when your band started.
Pretty much. I was 6 when Cradle started. So, and I like to remind Danny of that on a daily basis.
Yeah, I can imagine.
You call him Uncle Danny? Uncle Danny.
Yeah, Uncle Danny, yeah. Exactly. And our new keyboard player just turned 27. So it's one of those things which she's praying she's not going to be joining the club anytime soon. But we like to remind Danny about your keyboard player was actually like not even alive.
You could be her grandfather.
I think the first album came out and she still wasn't born. Not quite born when the first album came out.
Well, that just means it's current. You guys are still current. You have 27-year-olds that are like, I'll still be in a band with those old guys.
Well, that's what was always funny about playing with Trans-Siberian Orchestra is you've got these guys that are like the OG, the Savatage, like metal guitarists, and then they'll have a vocalist that like just turned 17 that got like picked off YouTube. And I'm like, they were like not even conceptualized as a human at that point. Yeah.
That's a weird thing though, to think that like you have a guy like Al Petrelli walking, you know, smelling like New York City and cigarettes, and he's and like, you know, you have Jeff Scott Soto, and then there's like a bunch of 17-year-old girls who've been singing Glee, and they're the ones low on the food chain. Like, where does that happen? Where like metal is triumphant, and then it's like, oh, you YouTubers go over there and just sing Perfect Fists.
Yeah, that only works if the metal guys create the scenario.
Right. Yeah.
Jesus in metal. That's what it is, man. Santa Claus
metal. It really
metal.
is. It's like Broadway metal, though. You know, I mean, it's
I love
a
it,
fusion.
though. But it's the smartest thing ever. Like, take Tchaikovsky and Christmas and release it then, and then have a #1 single, and then forever parlay that into a career. And God bless them, dude. I honestly think that is the smartest, because you see all these bands for years that are trying to play with lasers and lights and flame, and like people go just because of the lasers and lights and flames, and there's like 5 shows a day. They're like a Vegas act, and they're just like, oh, you want us to make money? We'll make money 5 times more than Ed Sheeran will have a fucking show in a day.
It's true. No, it's interesting. I mean, touring in the show is like such
It's
a
true,
big part.
yeah. I like my reaction. It's true, yeah. Exactly. Exactly what Benny said.
The touring side of it, yeah, the shows are what I think really bring in everything, which is amazing. I feel like in a lot of cases it's the opposite. You make more, well, I don't want to say you make more money from listens and streams, but I think touring is usually more expensive for other bands. It's more of a cost. But
Definitely.
it's a big production.
So
it's a very cool, very big production that I think any musician who likes that kind of thing would chomp at the bit to have a go on. You know,
do you think Gene Simmons?
That's so cool.
Do you think Gene Simmons goes to the shows and goes, first off, I'm Jewish, I don't get this, and then secondly, goes, they ripped this all off from me?
Possibly.
Very likely. But Richard, Cradle has another event coming up, isn't that right? Did I see something about that?
Yeah, we've got a couple of festivals lined up in August now that the UK is starting to open up a little bit more. So we're doing Bloodstock in the UK. Right. We're doing Alcatraz in Belgium the day before. And that's technically going to be our first planned show.
Hell yeah, bro.
So we finally got a show. I mean, well, 2 shows happening in August. We're planning another live stream, I believe around the same time, where we're going to play an album in its entirety, plus extra songs, that some of which have never been performed live ever, and some of them have just been not played for a very, very long time. So there's a lot of things being planned in Cradle of Filth land. Like, obviously, the new album, Existence is Futile, just keeps getting pushed back because of COVID, but there's talk of it being released towards the end of this year.
This is the same one that was recorded like months and months and months ago, right? Almost a year.
I went into the studio in March 2020 to record guitars, and that album still hasn't been released.
Well, you know what's interesting though? Wow. Yeah, well, yeah. Has he added a flugel yet? Yeah. But listen, the thing that's very interesting is that now that America's been opening up, now you have this flood of albums. I just came from Vegas, and all of a sudden you just see this flood of like, everyone's coming now. They're all coming. So I got to tell you, man, from the perspective of a musician on this side of the pond, like, a lot of good things are going to come for you, because even though right now it's like it's just opening up, once the floodgates get opened up, you're going to be so busy. And I can't wait for you to come over here and get to hang out with us finally, because this is going to be a great time, man, because we want to come chill with you, man.
It would be awesome. It's awesome. We could go record store shopping again. And
Dave Matthews, Under the Table and Dreaming.
Yeah, and Beauty and the Beast.
Well, I gotta tell you,
check out Richard's earlier episodes.
Really sold me on you. So everyone knows, when I first met Richard, he was playing the Paradise in Boston, and there was an old school record shop right underneath. And he was like, "Is there anything cool around here to do?" And I'm like, "Yeah, want to go record hunting?" So we went down, and they had a bunch of like tape decks and old vinyl. It's a really cool shop, right in Boston, and he's like looking through CDs and records. He leaves with Beauty and the Beast soundtrack, the Disney Beauty and the Beast soundtrack, and Dave Matthews' first record. And I was just like, okay, Cradle of Filth guy, way to show me that you have taste in other realms beyond this death metal shit. Is it even death metal? What do you even call that music? Is it like emo metal? Is it like I worship Satan? I don't even know what you call it. Like, I hate genres, but Cradle of Filth is its own thing.
I just call it metal.
It's just metal?
It's just metal, because Cradle is one of those strange bands where it's like a mixture of pretty much every style of metal you can think of thrown into one. So I just think it's metal. And even Danny has been quoted saying that like this. It's like, who cares what genre you want to put it in? Do you like it or not? That's all that matters. So I think the closest we can call it is just call it metal. Let's not split hairs. We have it on like Cradle of Filth forums where people will still to this day argue over the style of music Cradle is, and I'm just there thinking, I'm sure there's other things you can be doing with your life, but just
like most internet forums, I would agree.
Listening to the music instead of just arguing over what kind of music it is. But I'm just a big fan of, you listen to music that excites you. Don't put a label on it. As cheesy as that sounds, it's like,
what music excites you? What about the Beauty and the Beast soundtrack and Dave Matthews' Ants Marching excites you?
Oh, Ants Marching is just so cool, though.
Well, I love that song. I'm asking you, so what about, explain to me, as a plebeian, why you would pick out that record?
That's a very good question. It's just, I don't know. That reminds me of a time when I was first studying at music school. And my housemate was a huge Dave Matthews Band fan. That's why I never owned the records before, because we listened to them to death.
I was going to ask you why you didn't already have it.
Yeah, and that's why. And Dave Matthews Band were kind of known with like a little bit in the UK, but never really toured over here, and never really had any chart success. They're never on the radio. It's that kind of thing where if people were into them, were really into them. And my friend was really into them, and he'd have like the DVDs and all the songs off that album just were super cool. I don't know what it was. So it was more of a nostalgia thing, I think.
Who's your favorite player in Dave Matthews Band? There is a right answer.
Other than Carter Beauford?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, dude. Carter Beauford is the fucking best part of that band. I don't even care that Tim Reynolds joined the band finally after like Dave Matthews and Tim Reynolds for like 37 years. Like, dude, you guys play together. It's like saying you're not married. You're married. You're fucking together. You're in a relationship. But I actually called Carter Beauford Carter Buford to his face. It was very embarrassing. I was in an airport terminal in Paul Walkie Airport, like just outside Chicago. And I was flying on a private jet, which is very weird because I don't know why I deserve that. But Michael Jordan got off that jet. And I was like, hi, Michael Jordan. And that was very strange because you have this little back place where like nobody is except like the people going on the jet. And then all of a sudden this kid, I'm with my friend Devin, and this kid comes up to me and starts playing with my hair. I had long spiky hair at the time. And her mom had a video camera, and she came around. She's like, I hope you don't mind. I'm like, no. And I'm just letting this kid play with my hair. It was hilarious and really cute.
Where is this story going?
Then all of a sudden, this guy comes around, and it's Carter Beauford. And he starts talking to me, and after like 5 minutes of talking, I'm like, hey, man, I don't mean to be weird, but are you Carter Beauford from the Dave Matthews Band? And he goes, nah. I'm like, oh, man, you really look like him. He goes, no, I'm Carter Beauford from the Dave Matthews Band. And I was just horrified. And then he just like looked at me all serious, and then he just broke out laughing.
I refuse to believe that you were embarrassed.
I was mortified.
I don't think you have the capacity.
Dude, first off, this was like 15 years ago. So like I definitely did not have the level of no fucks given then. I was horrified, and I had like dreams where I woke up in a turtley sweat just going, oh my God, I could have just said Carter.
Yeah. Going back to something you said, Richard, about Dave Matthews Band being like extremely well known, but not on the radio, and it like almost that like cult following level. It's crazy to think of. I almost envision bands in those two tiers. There's like the bands that like are up here that everyone knows of, but they don't seem to like, no one's like really going deep in their catalog. It's just like they're insanely well known, but not like deeply known. And then there's those artists who are like, how did everyone find out about these people? And those are the ones that are around for 30, 40 years, never really getting to that level. Like, how do you think, like, what makes the difference between those two types of acts, in your opinion?
Oh, that's a really good question, because my instant thing is to go, I don't know if I'm qualified to answer this, but there's
as a music fan,
as a music fan, I mean, an obvious thing for me is marketing, because certain bands can be marketed a certain way that actually hurts their reputation. And I know that's probably happened to Cradle in the past, where yes, they became a bigger band, but a lot of the loyal fans kind of left, and that's it. And then you kind of. Do
you think that was because you didn't go as goth rock when you should have gone total church metal rock, and when people were asking you to do the emo rock
I think we want to hear what he has to say.
No, I don't really know what it was, because obviously I wasn't in the band at that point, but I was observing the band because my brother was a diehard fan. I was kind of a casual fan, and you could see kind of a rise again fall again of Cradle in it. And I put Cradle in that set, where it's like they're almost one of those cult bands where if you're into them and you get it for life. And you know, and I think there's a lot of bands like that, where it's like it doesn't matter how bad an album is. It's just an album that fan's with you for life. Metallica. It doesn't matter. The Metallica. Me being the Metallica fanboy that I am, I'm that fanboy who loves everything they've done, because at least they've taken risks.
Slipknot.
And you don't know what they're going to get. Exactly.
Could you even follow Corey Taylor down those fucking stupid solo albums? Are you like loving those?
I really like the solo album. I do like it. Obviously it's very different, but I like it because it's different and because it almost is like I'm going to do this whether you like it or not kind of attitude. I think I like it for that reason. Don't get me wrong, I'm not listening to it a lot. I don't think it's incredible.
Do you think
like
Blabbermouth will quote you like that? That Richard Shaw thinks this about Corey Taylor's record, and then Corey needs to make a thing about your thought of his own record. Well, you know what? Richard Shaw never knew anything in Cradle of Filth, and it'd be the best thing you ever did for marketing. Was like all of a sudden Danny's going to come in like, why are you all over Blabbermouth? We said something about Corey Taylor.
Yeah, exactly. You were just setting me up to say something about Corey Taylor.
Sure.
Apparently, I was waiting for your
can say, well, what does Corey Taylor think about this? You know what I mean?
Well, no, Blabbermouth is his jam, though. Gladwire says a lot of things, but I feel like Blabbermouth is like he's got the N over there.
Yeah, he must have shares in it or something. I don't know what it is. You know? But no, there's just a lot of bands. Like, you can name a million bands in a million genres, just that for some reason they either stay at a cult level or they go through. And I think a lot of it comes down to marketing, because it's not like the songs were any better than another band. It's not like the players or the singers were any better than that other band. It's just, and there are some bands that never get to that level because they just, I think it's been marketed wrong.
Right.
Or the wrong label. I don't know.
Think about it. You probably can explain this. It's like the age-old difference between Eric Clapton and Jeff Beck. Jeff Beck hates the fact that he doesn't have the commercial success as Eric Clapton or Jimmy Page, but he's better than both. Can you explain this, Richard? Or do you think he's even better?
See, I'm one of those guys who puts them all on an even playing field, because I think
Eric Clapton's even to Jeff Beck?
Probably not from a technical standpoint.
Songwriting, even? He doesn't even play his own songs. Change the World is clearly the best Eric Clapton song ever.
Well, let's hear Richard's opinion. Ben, shut up.
It is a great song. I remember learning that on guitar years ago. I think it was one of the greatest songs ever. But yeah.
All right.
Is that the Bruce Dickinson version? I'm not really sure.
We can't allow you to have coffee anymore. No more coffee for Ben.
But I can't even remember what we were saying.
Exactly, that's the problem.
But the Clapton thing, because it was weird, because I was a diehard Clapton fan until I saw him live, to be honest with you, and I was kind of like, oh, he kind of doesn't want to be here. And I hope I just saw him on an off night. You know what I mean? As horrible as that sounds, because we all get off nights. We're only human. And it just seemed like he really didn't want to be. He played with his back to the audience, pretty much the whole show.
Wow.
And played the same 4 licks for 2 hours. And you're there going, okay. Saying that, what have I got here? Hold on.
Is it one more? Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
That's cool.
So 2021 guitar pick. Because our new monitor guy, who was doing the live stream with us and will be touring with us all the time, he tours with Clapton as well. And he was like, these are actually the Clapton picks that got sent out to all the crew for some reason. All the crew get sent them. So if basically no picks available, the crew can be available to put them on the bike stands, any member of the crew. But so I got one. But
in terms of you mentioned that he almost seemed like he didn't want to be there. I wonder if it just gets to the point when you're Eric Clapton, with literally one of the most famous guitarists of all time, if you just start, that has to do something to your brain where you can't be normal. You can't be who you were 20 years ago because you are now Eric Clapton. Does he maybe just shows up and he's like, oh, I'm me. So people should just be grateful that I even came out.
It's a hard one to answer because obviously we're not Eric Clapton.
Exactly.
We're not in his head. And like I said, everyone has off days, which is why I'm never going to really judge him too harshly on that. Yeah. It was just the time. But I was so excited to see him. I remember the first time I saw Metallica, I was bitterly disappointed. Yeah. And then every time I saw them after that, I thought they were the greatest band I've ever seen. So it's and I know for a fact, obviously, you get to a point where I think certain people either believe their own hype or they almost go dead against it.
Right. And
it's hard it's almost a blurry line, I think. It's right, okay, I'm going to go up on stage and do the complete opposite of what you expect. Mm-hmm. And then people are disappointed. Or they go, right, now I'm going to basically just walk on stage and give them almost a parody, a caricature of myself. and then people are disappointed. So it's like this weird thing. I think you can't be the same musician and the same songwriter you were 20 years ago.
Well, that level of like infamy that some of these people have, like I said, it just can't, our minds can't, there's no way, they're still human. So when you get into like that bullshit machine where there's so much like theatrics around who you are, I don't think there's any way for that not to penetrate unless you like kind of said go 100% the opposite way, like just like, wow, these people are crazy to think. You have to have a lot of self-doubt, I think, in order to stay somewhat normal.
With Clapton, I looked it up. It was peripheral neuropathy, which is like a serious, like, you know, like nerve thing, which I imagine severely affects his ability to play. If I was Eric Clapton, I would think if you have enough money and like he said he was going to stop touring, why don't you stop? While people still have this glowing view of you, because when I saw him, he was unbelievable. And it's kind of sad to think maybe he does have peripheral neuropathy, and then that's been causing him to suck.
It's a hard one. It's a hard one because there's a whole new generation. I mean, I'm in one of those generations who picked up guitar, like, arguably because of Clapton, but I wasn't around in the 60s and the 70s or really even the 80s to watch it, you know? So I think there's this whole thing of going, okay, you have to go on tour to be relevant and to have the chance to see bands, like in the same way that every time like Queen and Adam Lambert go on tour, I'm buying a ticket.
But that's
so I was like sick.
That's good because the thing is, they don't have an old aging Queen trying to sit there and play through the Queen set, whereas Adam Lambert arguably comes in and he's as good in his own way as Freddie Mercury. No one's Freddie Mercury, says he's not Freddie Mercury, but you know, Brian May and Roger Taylor wrote those songs, a lot of them. They were all songwriters, so they're playing their own songs, and maybe people consider it a cover band because John Deacon's like, I'm not going to show up or whatever, but he's the bass player, so we'll say he's the least important. You know, like I want to, as just like you, as long as it is Brian May and Roger Taylor and a guy that could sing. Look, I saw him with Paul Rogers and I was just happy to hear Hammer to Fall live. I was happy to hear The Show Must Go On live and see Brian May shred it. And that's a different kind of nostalgia for me than seeing Ozzy Osbourne like sit there going, it's with mom, and he's reading off a teleprompter as he pours water over his head as he pisses himself. And now we can't even pour the water himself, so he has someone else do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but part of touring and performing and releasing anything is for the artists too. I mean, that's what's hard, is we as musicians have a different perspective.
Does
we
Ozzy
have some
know
empathy.
he's there?
Well, who knows? But I mean, you know, obviously you have to satisfy the people that are your fans to an extent, but you also have to do what's good for you as well. And we have a different perspective. We can empathize with musicians because we understand, like you say, someone has a bad day, they don't do a great performance. You're still a fan, you know, because you understand that that's what it's really like.
What if it's a bad 2 decades like Lars Ulrich?
Well, they're still fans, so...
But I agree with Siobhán. It's like it's almost kind of selfish in a way as well. We do it for us, I think, first. It's like musicians, even if they've been doing it, if they have a true love for it, they will keep doing it. And if there's an audience to see it, then all the better. But I'm still one of those people. I like to think now. I mean, even between Cradle of Filth tours, I was still going and doing cover band stuff in local bars and restaurants and stuff like that. I was still doing because I just loved playing for me. It was a very selfish thing, and I love to do it in front of a crowd as well, and long may it continue.
And I think that's why that's what makes it interesting for anyone watching. If you're not doing it for yourself and enjoying yourself, then how's the crowd going to enjoy it? Like, because
I feel like you're clocking on.
But
I think there's been times where I've watched bands and you feel like they're clocking on, and
it's terrible.
Again, it might be an off day. It might be an off day where you feel like, oh, I've got to go to work. I've got to do this show. Then, and then there's the next day, you're absolutely fine. So,
what if it's like a guy like Vince Neil, though? Did you see this footage of him literally walking off stage with girls, because he's just, oh, guys, I can't sing. It's like, you just figured this out right now. Like, he sounded just as bad 15 songs ago. Like, isn't there a point?
You know, that's one show that, you know... I mean, I'm not going to defend Vince Neil as a
Vince Neil.
I'm not going to defend Vince Neil as a singer, but
please do.
It's 100% possible that he was practicing and trying to warm up and blew his voice out the day before the show. Like,
He said it's been a long time, guys, which means to me that he probably hasn't sang in a long time. He just showed up and ate
that is
donuts.
possible. Like I said, I'm not going to defend Vince Neil, but in general, like Richard was saying, people have off nights, so it's really hard to say, I guess, to make a general statement in terms of that, of someone just shitting the bed on stage. Or shitting their pants on stage.
Last time I saw Ozzy, was at a festival, and he just walked off stage for like 10 minutes. He like just stopped in the middle of a phrase and let Zakk Wylde take like a 10-minute solo. And I would still go back and see. I would still go back and see him perform again, because it was just like there was an energy, and you could tell he wanted to be there. And he's like, you know what? I'm just going to step aside and let my band do what they're good at.
Well, Ozzy knows that because he has a good 90-minute set, but he's on stage for like 60 minutes of it. There's a drum solo, there's a guitar solo, and people are going to see Zakk Wylde for him to play Mr. Crowley. Like, that's what I mean. As an Ozzy fan, I'm going more to see his band at this point than I am to go see Ozzy.
Right, and that's kind of cool. That's like, you're going to see a show. You're not just going to see this dude sing. And it works out. It's kind of like a win-win, because they get to take a break as a vocalist, and the energy of the show never dips. There's always something going on, so no one's ever disappointed that Ozzy's backstage taking a nap in the middle of the set.
No, but the principle, it's interesting because, even on the internet, I have a very small YouTube channel, but I like to upload some, different covers of guitar solos. And someone made this like nasty comment that's like, oh, if you can't do the last solo in November Rain, then thumbs down. I'm not interested. And I'm like, dude, this channel is for me. Yeah. Like, I'm doing this because I want to learn these solos, and I chose to do the first one.
You know what, Siobhán? Like, if you can't mow my lawn, then I'm just not going to call you anymore.
It's just interesting,
Prove me wrong.
Maybe the internet changed it, but what people expect, and what I feel like a lot of people have forgotten about the purpose of music in a lot of ways, and performance.
Dance,
and
monkey,
artists.
dance. Do what I say, because I'm a keyboard warrior.
There's a lot of that comes back. For one thing that has annoyed me for a long time, and I'm sure it does for a lot of musicians, is the sheer number of bands miming. And I think that's a thing as well. It's a pressure. It's like, weirdly enough, it's this weird pressure that happens from music fans. Mm-hmm. Like you see it at Cradle shows. People go, okay, we're going to film this song. Like, you see, there's certain songs in the set. Siobhán, I don't know if you get this with Starset, but there's certain songs in the set where it's like, okay, everyone's phone's out. For some reason, that's the one that everyone wants to film and call their buddy to say, guess where I am? You know what I mean? That kind of stuff. I can tell you're at a Cradle show. I think this is the problem that happens with a lot of bands that I've seen, where I'm going, they were great, and in a lot of people's opinion, they are great, but I've seen them mime more and more over the years because of YouTube, and like the fans are going, I'm going to check out what this band's like live by watching this really horrible phone recording pressed right up against the speaker. Oh, they dropped a note. I'm not going to see them because they're awful. I'm going to tell the internet like this is a really awful band because the singer dropped one note in a 90-minute show, and they're basing their entire opinion. So I think in a weird way, it's causing a lot of bands that didn't want to mime. And it's not because they can't do it. It's because they're terrified that if they do drop that one note in their most famous song in the chorus, that's it. Everyone's going to judge them incredibly hard.
It's going to live forever.
You hand it to the crowd. You just take it away from your mouth. But I will tell you that one of the reasons we continue to work with you on Lost Symphony, because I didn't really know how good of a player you were when we kind of threw you Premeditated Destruction, which if people listen to chapter 1, that song has, like, I think it's in 13/8, and we said, holy fucking shit. This part is ridiculous, and absolutely nobody wanted to play on it. So I'm like, hey, there's this British guy. Let's see if we can fucking get this clown to play this crazy part. And he sent it back, and I was like, oh Lord, this is insane. And it gets more and more insane. And I looked at Cory, I'm like, he fucking comped this. This little fucking newbie comped this shit. And then he sends us the GoPro footage of him playing it. And I thought maybe he was miming. And then I saw the footage and I'm like, oh no, this guy's that good. And as you could see from the 8,645 comments on our new song, Take Another Piece, coming out on chapter 3, people seem to think you're pretty good, Richard.
Thank you. I know it sounds weird, but I don't really pay attention to that stuff. I think I used to.
I read every comment.
When I first joined Cradle of Filth, it was almost like this okay, what do people think so I can improve upon what I do? And then all that happened was it just caused a lot of self-doubt. And it was like, right, everything I do is going to be horrendous in the eyes of some fans. And so, this guy's not metal enough. That's the number one thing I always hear. This guy's not metal enough because I do more than just like headbang and play power chords.
You buy Dave Matthews Band records.
And I buy Dave Matthews Band records.
That's not metal at all.
It's not metal at all.
It's literally not metal.
But I find that the craziest thing ever when I answer back with, you're not metal.
Right.
That's not the be all and end all of my life. I'm really, really sorry that I've disappointed you by not being metal enough by your standards. I'm sorry.
Do you live in your mom's?
And now I just carry on with my life. And
let me ask you a few questions. Let's do the metal questionnaire. Do you live in your mom's basement?
No. We don't have basements in the UK. That's why.
Okay, well, starting there, already failed.
Attic?
Do you have at least 4 or 5 Iron Maiden posters on your wall, but only taped without frames?
I did, yeah.
Now,
no.
Do you only wear black?
Pretty much, actually.
Okay, that's good. That's metal.
1/3
that's
metal.
I am metal. I'm like a third metal.
You're 33% metal. So so people know that if they actually ask what the equation is, you're a 1-to-3 ratio metal.
Yeah, maybe I should ask for metal elitists that. It's like, okay, how can I be more metal? Show me, teach me.
Wear a dead skin mask on stage.
Yeah, like what is metal?
Slayer
I find
said
that
so.
such a weird thing. You don't see like pop musicians going, "You're not pop enough." You know what I mean? You're not funk enough.
And going
you're
back
not
to what you said,
classical enough.
It doesn't matter.
I feel like you're wrong because
does that happen? Does that people go, "You're not classical enough because you play in a rock band"?
Ben.
Oh, for sure. I think that the judgment definitely exists. And I was going to say, I feel bad for guitar players in the rock scene because, the way you guys get judged and watched by the audience is like, I feel lucky to be a violinist in the rock and metal world because there's almost no standard for comparison, So I feel most people are very complimentary. But I'm sure, classical players can be I don't think they're as verbal with their judgments, but there's, I think there's definitely a stigma of, doing anything to classical music that makes it not classical. So it'll be interesting to hear, when chapter 3 comes out, like some of the classical stuff we did, like what classical, I think that, the mindset's changing because people realize you can't just be that rigid or else you'll have no career.
Exactly.
I hope there's that controversy. Like I would love for like someone, that'll be my favorite comment, like someone that had to watch through the whole 10-minute long piece that we have on there and then just be like, this wasn't classical enough. I'm like, thanks for the view, dude. I'm like,
yeah, exactly. This is the thing. Everyone's got their own opinions of just music in general, like what counts as good in music, and it's what makes music brilliant at the same time. It's like we'll all have this endless debate about bands and musicians and songs, and like in the same way you have a fandom where you find someone who you go, oh my god, listen to the bridge in this song, oh my god, that something about that resonates with you. And in the same way you can have bands and styles of music that you just really rub you up the wrong way. And I think both extremes are really cool, to be honest with you. I just think it shows people are passionate. I think that's what it is. If you release something and people go, it's okay, I think I'd be more annoyed than people who are like, that's not classical enough, that you're not metal enough, you're not. Yeah. It's like, well, at least you're passionate.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Because I always say that regardless, with any form of art, whether as long as it makes you feel a certain way, you know what I mean? Like you go and see a movie like Requiem for a Dream. I don't leave happy. I left completely depressed, ready to
which is exactly what happens with Lost Symphony. Pills. You're going to leave depressed and bummed out.
Yeah.
Disappointed.
But the point is that I'm glad that it made me feel a certain way versus like, oh, I forgot that like a month later. Like how many times, like I went to In-N-Out Burger with Cindy, we passed by an In-N-Out Burger, thank God, with Cindy, my fiance. And she's like, I don't know if I've ever had that. I'm like, no, we definitely went to In-N-Out Burger last time we were in California. And she just didn't remember because it was that unimportant that she didn't even remember that she had gone there. Whereas all of my friends, or well, not all of my friends, but a bunch of my friends will go to like California and we don't have In-N-Out Burger around here. And they're like, dude, look, we got In-N-Out Burger. And it's like, I don't even, it's so
It's got to make an impression.
It didn't even make an impression.
Exactly.
No, but what's interesting, like going back to classical music though, like classical musicians now are, like they are very judgmental in a lot of ways, but some of the greatest moments in classical music history were when there were riots, like when Stravinsky premiered The Rite of Spring. It's like people were like so angry and they left. They're like, this is not music. This is insane. And it like wasn't until later.
Really?
Now it's like,
Can you explain this to us? Is this like Rumspringa?
It was just, I mean, the sounds that he made, it was so like different from anything that people had heard that they were just like, it was everyone would go to this one venue to see all the new classical premieres. And it's like, people were just totally mortified. They were like, this is terrible. There were riots. They would leave.
That's metal.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, is that why-
Because it was the metal of the time.
It really
Franz
was.
Liszt.
Controversial.
Yeah, like Franz Liszt, Niccolo Paganini. They say that he sold his soul to the devil to play as fast as he did, which is the basis for the movie Crossroads. But it's like, you listen to Franz Liszt and it's some of the craziest piano work, and they call it progressive, and that's because nobody wanted to call it music even at the time, because they're just like,
Right.
This is so fucking different. And in fact, I'm doing a whole thing about Les Paul right now, and Gibson thought that his guitar design was so radical they didn't want to call it a Gibson, so they said, what should we call it? And he said, a Les Paul. And they said, would you put that in writing? And now it's like synonymous with guitar.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you got to stir stuff up, make a difference.
I remember that I was taught by a guy called Bill Bruford, who I don't know if you guys know Bill Bruford.
Not, are you sure it's not Beaufort?
It's not.
You wouldn't want to call him by the wrong name, man, because that's embarrassing.
Exactly. Who would do that?
Take it from me.
But Bill Bruford was the drummer in Yes, Genesis, and King Crimson.
All shitty bands, obviously, that have no good drums at all.
3 of the big 4 70s UK prog
Wait, I thought that was Anthrax, Megadeth, and...
The original Big 4, Benny. Keep up, man. Keep up. But no, he was one of my tutors at the Academy of Contemporary Music where I studied. And I remember he came out with something that I never even thought of. He says, there's no such thing as original music anymore. And there hasn't been for hundreds of years. I was like, how did you work that out? And when he explained it, and it's stuck with me ever since, he says, if it was 100% original music, you would not recognize it as music. If it was that original. And that always stuck with me. It's like you can always trace it back to something, because if it was 100% original, you'd be like, going, I have
Are
no
you like
point
the
of reference to
23
this
and me of
at all.
music? Like, do you put it in and it comes back 10% Stravinsky, 8% Metallica, 15% Foreigner?
I mean,
That's
kind of how it works.
Pretty much.
Well, it's all built on influence you've had in your musical experiences, right? I mean,
I think originality now is more how you combine your influences,
exactly.
Which is one of the things that always pops up on the show is, the broader your spectrum of influences, the more original you can be, so to speak, because you can pull from all these different areas. Whereas if you have a very narrow field of focus, you're going to sound less original because everything's going to be, that's very familiar. I've heard that, So you can have this original sound, but it's got to be a, big mix of all these other sounds.
One of my favorite Richard quotes is when he explains why he likes extreme. And then he says it's kind of like a musical education of all my favorite bands synthesized into one band. And I actually said that to Paul Geary. And we said it to Nuno, who, by the way, he saw that clip.
You told Paul and Nuno what I said about
that. Yeah, well, first off, just so you know,
really?
let me read you. I'm going to find it right now because Nuno actually... I'm gonna search my email for Nuno because I sent him the clip of us saying, why is Nuno so awesome? And by the way, everyone that I know that knows Nuno is so annoyed with me for even talking about this right now. But hold on, let me find the clip. He had said something to the extent of,
don't worry, we have time. There's 3 minutes
How
left
about
in
you
the
just give us
episode.
a
I'm going to
paraphrase?
find this for you because this is hilarious.
All right, so I will say, as the episode comes to an end, we'll end with Nuno's quote from Ben. But Richard, obviously, thank you for coming back and hanging out with us in this first hour here. We're gonna get into the second hour, and we could dive a little deeper. Definitely want to dive into Take Another Piece and how how that went, as well as some other work you've done with us on Lost Symphony that will be out very, very soon after this episode comes out. So we're excited to get that out there. Cradle of Filth, be sure to, is the live stream still available? Can people watch that, the recording?
Unfortunately not now. It was only up for about 2 weeks, something like that. But there is another one being planned.
Great. So stay tuned for that. And obviously check out the festivals that are coming up and get your tickets for that. live music coming back. Very exciting. And
This is perfect for this morning. So I sent from episode 28 the clip we spoke about Extreme to Nuno on March 15th. Nuno responds, "Who needs coffee when you got that in the morning? Ellipsis. Nice ego boost. Space. Actually, it's uncomfortable watching that. Ellipsis. People really believe those things about me? Ellipsis. No. For real? Space. Blows my mind. Space. And makes me tear up. Space. It's just unfathomable to me that people feel that when listening to me. Space. No bullshit. Space. It's crazy, and as confident as I may seem, ellipsis. It's humbling and touching. Space. Thanks for sharing. Means a lot to an old man. Space. N."
That was a journey.
Wow.
That's the way he speaks. He speaks in like sonnets.
You should have read it like an old timey telegram. Like,
Yeah.
stop.
There's still time.
No, that's
not
the end of
time.
this episode.
We're cutting you off,
we
Ben.
love you.
So thank you, Richard. Yeah, we'll be back for part 2, so stay tuned, and you've been 2020'd.
Got a story that happened in Israel, weirdly enough, and that was the time we had an impromptu drum solo, which has never happened in Cradle of Filth, because a certain member of the band, who will remain nameless, shit themselves on stage, and that was 4 songs in. They had to wait until the encore, which was another 10 songs later, before they could get off stage.
I'm gonna joke.
We know, at least we know it's not the drummer. So that
It's not the drummer.
And it
it's
wasn't
not
you.
the drummer. It wasn't me.
Oh my God.